This presentation is about an important decision that will be made by delegates attending the 2021 Virtual MGEU Convention. The decision is whether or not the MGEU should amend its constitution in two key ways. One, to hold conventions every 3 years instead of every 2 years, and two, to hold elections every 3 years instead of every 2 years. This presentation provides a brief summary of the report prepared to assist delegates in making this decision. The presentation is also intended to facilitate a conversation among members at your local meeting. This decision is before us because at the 2018 convention, several resolutions proposing to move to a 3-year cycle were submitted by members. The Convention Resolutions Committee combined these resolutions into Composite Resolution CR26, which you can read on the screen. This is the resolution that delegates debated. During the debate, it became apparent that many members felt they needed more information to make a decision on such an important change. In the end, delegates decided to refer the resolution to the Board of Directors with specific instructions. The board was directed to strike a committee to prepare some information and analysis for delegates to have at the next convention. Then, when this resolution comes back to the next convention for debate, a decision on how to proceed can be made. Specifically, the committee was tasked with reporting back on the implications, pros and cons, and cost impact of moving to a 3-year cycle. The instructions also specified that a half-day should be added to the next convention and dedicated to debate about this important decision. The board was also directed to ensure the committee's report is provided to delegates at least 1 month before the next convention. Finally, the board was to ensure the committee was both gender balanced and diverse. The committee appointed by the board was made up of a combination of members and staff with experience related to MGEU's finances, constitution, conventions, and elections. Although intended primarily for convention delegates, the committee's report is also being presented to members at these local meetings so that convention delegates have an opportunity to hear what members think about this issue. The committee's report focused on 3 main issues that moving to a 3-year cycle would impact: the election cycle, democratic voice and participation for members, costs and resources. We will now briefly touch on each of these. The resolution called for both MGEU conventions to be held every 3 years instead of every 2 years, and MGEU elections to be held every 3 years instead of every 2 years. This means the term of office for all union positions would be 3 years, from convention to convention. Convention is the supreme governing body in the MGEU Constitution. That means moving to a 3-year cycle would impact how members have a voice and a say in their union. The committee also recognized that convention is a valuable opportunity for members to connect, network, and learn from each other. The committee also noted that convention is not the only way for members to participate in their union. In considering these issues, the committee took the approach of asking itself, if we move to a 3-year cycle, can we preserve the important role that convention plays in the democracy of our union? The committee asked, can we ensure that members have enough opportunity to have a voice and a say in their union? And what other changes to our Constitution would need to be made to ensure members still have a voice and a say if we move to a 3-year cycle? The committee looked at the experience of other unions and labor bodies that have moved to a 3-year cycle and concluded that it can be done without compromising member participation and democracy, but that additional changes would need to be made to the Constitution. Specifically, the committee concluded that if convention is only held every 3 years, then it should be lengthened by a half-day. This, combined with electronic voting and other recent changes to the convention format, would give members more time to debate the issues facing our union. If convention is only held every 3 years, MGEU should do what the Manitoba Federation of Labour and the Nova Scotia Government and General Employees Union did when they made this change: add a shorter mid-term conference midway between conventions. The committee spent some time thinking about what this midterm conference should look like for the MGEU and how it could strengthen our democracy. Specifically, the committee recommended a provincial local leadership forum be implemented to bring together all local presidents, and the board of directors for a one-day event. The event agenda would focus on a progress report from the board on implementation of convention resolutions and union activities since the last convention. Local presidents would have an opportunity to ask the board questions about this report. There would also be time to address current issues facing the union. For example, if it were held in 2021, there would be an agenda item about the pandemic. The committee also felt that because this event would be smaller than a full convention, it would be possible to hold it outside Winnipeg, and that it should always be held outside Winnipeg if appropriate facilities and hotel accommodation were available. The final issue looked at by the committee was the financial and staff resource impact of moving to a 3-year cycle. During the debate at the 2018 convention, it had been assumed that money would be saved by moving to a 3-year cycle, but delegates wanted to know how much. The committee noted that both financial resources and staff resources are impacted by the frequency of convention. Any freed up dollars or staff time could be redirected to other member priorities. The committee noted that any potential cost or staff resource savings would be partially offset by its recommendation to lengthen convention and to add a midterm conference. But even factoring in these additional costs, the committee estimated that moving to a 3-year cycle would save $205,000 every 6 years. A more detailed cost analysis can be found in the report. The report also covered 2 additional issues: coordination with other labor conventions, and transition issues. The committee did not take a position on moving to a 3-year cycle. Instead, the committee concluded that if convention endorses a 3-year cycle, the MGEU should lengthen convention to a minimum of 2.5 days and add a 1-day midterm provincial local leadership forum. The committee concluded that this model for a 3-year cycle is consistent with meaningful democratic member participation and more effectively manages MGEU financial and staff resources. But the committee felt that it was best to present the implications, pros and cons, and options for convention delegates to make their decision. We are not taking a vote on this decision today because under our Constitution, this is a decision for elected delegates to make at convention. The delegates will make their decision taking into consideration your views and those expressed during the debate at convention. These spring 2021 virtual local meetings are an opportunity for MGEU members like you to discuss this important decision and to make your views known to the delegate or delegates you elect to go to convention. We now turn it over to the meeting chair to lead a discussion about whether or not MGEU should move to a 3-year convention and election cycle. Why do you think we should not make this change? Or why do you think we should make this change?